I don't remember this being here before.
Yeah, I definitely do not recall seeing such a large arcane symbol out in the courtyard previously. And I find it hard to imagine that we would not have noticed this before with all of our trips out here. Honestly, I can't even imagine that we would have gotten turned around underneath the clock tower and ended up back at the same place. In fact, looking at our map, all the previously marked off rooms and places we have gone have strangely been wiped clean from our map. So while I feel that this place might have a similar structure, this is definitely not the same school we were just at. Which means that we are going to figure out a brand new pathway to make our way around to still be on the lookout for poor missing Cheryl. Now, while this might be a brand new school and area, the enemies are going to be pretty familiar to us at this point, just more grade children to dispatch. Though I get the feeling that, considering our surroundings, they might be more at home here and their population might have skyrocketed a bit. Yeah, pretty dramatic visual style change. Though I don't feel that it's completely foreign to us at this point. The rust, the chains, the industrial feel of it all, it almost brings to mind that nightmarish alleyway we ended up dying in at the very start of the game while looking for Cheryl. I guess it could be that somehow or another we managed to fall asleep and stumble into yet another nightmare, but I don't think we really have time to ponder on the metaphysics of all that for right now. I think this is definitely not a place we want to leave Cheryl just aimlessly wandering about. Sadly, the most obvious ways of getting around the double doors at each end of the hallway are pretty much blocked off to us for right now. But that doesn't mean that we can't enter some previously blocked off rooms and do a little bit of exploration. And in fact, in this little storage room, you get some impression that maybe there had been children here previously, especially finding this little toy rubber ball here. Not entirely sure why we'd want to take that with us. Maybe we could use it as a distraction against the gray children. But yeah, as both the double doors are locked to us, the only other way we can go is with this final remaining door. And in this great hall, instead of being greeted by so many great children, instead we are greeted by a brand new enemy. These little cockroaches are called creepers, and they are more a distraction and less so something that you actually need to worry about, at least by themselves. But the previously opened up hallways of the school have now been blocked off halfway down, which pretty much corrals us into each one of the classrooms here. And you can still vaguely tell these are classrooms. I mean, they have lockers and desks, a few random chairs, but they are definitely a lot more Spartan than their other counterpart. And on the table here we find another strange item amongst all these playing cards. It's not immediately evident what it's going to be used for, but it will become pretty obvious when we do need it. But yeah, while the rooms are much more wide open, there's still plenty of opportunities to stumble into some unnecessary damage. I mean, the camera placement does work against you sometimes, but I feel like it sets up a much better environment for tension because it's usually placed in such a way that you cannot clearly tell what dangers are lying ahead of you in a given room. Thankfully for us, these long hallways are a little bit more lenient on us. Also, since this is the front hallway, yep, this is still the infirmary, and while this area, or this overall school, is a pretty grotesque mess, still seems like they do favor having at least some level of health and safety care here, which is good for us. That means we can stock up on a few healing items. And in addition to that, this is also, much like the other infirmary, the only place you're going to be able to save in this school, so it's good to keep that in mind. Also, I did appreciate just the tiny level of static there telling us that there was still one singular enemy left in this hallway. I suppose you could still go through here with the radio and light turned off to maybe circumvent fighting a lot of these little gray children. But I feel like you'd miss a lot of the visual style that they have going, and honestly, these large open pits make me almost fearful that in that darkness, Harry might just stumble into them to his death. Still in the front area, the front doors are jammed and we can't exit out to explore the rest of this nightmarish world. Instead, the primary reason to come out into this area is this ampule. Now, this is the final healing item of the game. It will be a full heal to you, while I think the med kit is maybe 3/4 of a heal. It's very rare, though, that you'll ever actually need a 100% heal. There's very little circumstance where you are going to be that close to death that a med kit won't do the exact same thing and keep you from dying. And what was previously a fairly normal little relaxation point behind the reception area has been replaced with a much more, I'll say, artistically inclined area. In fact, what had previously just been a painting on the wall has now been, I guess, a very literal case of life imitating art. So it seems that it is aesthetics over functionality here, as this door does not have an available doorknob or way for us to readily open it. But Harry's keen eye does notice there seems to be a card slot on the front of it. And as you might recall, we did manage to pick up a pretty strange little card that had a key on it. Some might say that we managed to find a key card. But with that simple puzzle solved, we can finally get into one of the main hallways of the school, where we notice a very noticeable little trail of viscera here. It does make you question what grisly thing might have happened to draw our attention amongst all the rust and red that we already see. Another hanging corpse. Yet again drawing another reminder of that alleyway where Harry Mason died before. Or at least went unconscious. This hanging corpse, though, comes with some additional reading material in the form of Leonard Rhine, the monster lurks. Does that mean that this guy was Leonard Rhine, or that Leonard Rhine did this to him? I mean, it's hard to tell with the state of the corpse, but what is very noticeable is this brand new weapon for us on the ground. Definitely do not want to overlook that. It's always nice to get some additional firepower, though the pistol is still pretty much our bread and butter for getting through the school for right now. Also, since there was something new for us in I think that was the boys' bathroom, I can only assume there is something nice for us waiting for us in the girls' bathroom. Sadly, it doesn't seem to be the case, just some rather awkward little bathroom stalls. Strangely, it seems like a different hallway than what we were previously in. And somehow or another, we've ended up on the next floor. Yeah, this is, I think, our first actual real hidden secret. If you manage to go into the girls' bathroom on the first floor, it acts as a teleport up to the second floor, which allows us access to this little hidden cache of items here, including our first box of shotgun shells. So it's a nice little treat for us amongst all the rust and industrialization. And it's something that can be pretty easily overlooked, considering that in the old school's bathrooms there was absolutely nothing of interest there. Yeah, just having to go back into the classrooms yet again. Even more awaiting grade children that we can easily juke around. Though we do see the first real purpose and danger of the creeper. It can easily draw your attention away from much more obvious threats. Though if you are somewhat good with the aiming in the game, it's pretty easy to aim at multiple targets on a whim. But beside these handgun bullets, this room does have a unique feature of these, well, as you can imagine, very broken phones. Considering the state of this place, I can't really assume that they should be working.
Daddy, help me. Daddy, where are you?
Cheryl!
That, I think, was probably the first indication that we might still be on the proper trail after Cheryl. Seems like it's been an eternity since we've even got any indication, outside that one singular note, that we were even on the right trail. But with that, we've pretty much covered all we can on the first floor. So I guess it's back up to the second floor we go. Now, you might recall all the rooms we previously had to visit to solve the puzzles to open up the clock tower. And I guess good news for Harry with his exploration, most of those are now blocked off to us, but at the far end of the hallway, we do stumble across two doors that, instead of just being jammed, are locked, so we are going to have to keep on a lookout for the keys for those. I mean, the good news is at this point that we haven't reached any legitimate dead ends that have required us to explore for any items. Though that does remind me that we never actually went up to the roof of the other school. And there was a good reason for that. The door would have just been jammed up to us, so we wouldn't have actually been able to get this, well, I guess, view into a all-encompassing ebony void. Still beyond the wonderful view, does look like there is a key waiting for us, just a little bit out of reach. Seems that there is a drain, and it looks like we could have the water go all the way down to that key, maybe knock it loose, but yeah, there is this other open hole here. So we need something to block it up with, and it just so happens that we did manage to find a perfectly spherical object that we can plug up the hole with. That should have knocked the key free. Though where it might have gone is a bit of a mystery. Yeah, overall I'd say that the puzzles that you run into with this other school are a bit more simple than what we ran to in the other school, but finding this key can be a little bit difficult, especially if you did not manage to fully explore the courtyard. Because you might just vaguely recall that there was a little bit of a drainage ditch off to the side. Indeed, is where the key ends up. It does make me question, though. I don't think we've run across any actually locked classrooms yet. So I guess that was just a little bit of a side trip to get that key up and ready for whenever we might need it. And I guess it's just back to exploring the second floor and starting to poke around all the classrooms. The bad news is that it's probably better to pick up that key later. Because as you might recall from the other school, sometimes getting plot-relevant items will cause more enemies to spawn. It's also a good reminder, if you are being actively chased by enemies, don't get greedy. With that greed, sometimes your own hubris can catch up with you. And we came very close to death there. Really, the ambushes from here on out get pretty hot and heavy. Especially if you are low on ammo and just trying to juke your way around these hallways. They are really not built for that. Though I do kind of question what they were built for at all. And yet again, it seems to some degree that this is the idea of a school, but just massively warped. But hey, at least we didn't get a cat scare this time that led to a feline's demise. And instead of just being a mere optional room, this is actually required for us to make forward progression in the school. Because at this point, those nearby double doors are going to be locked, so the only way to get into that final hallway is to make our way up through the library reserve. Much like before, since we managed to pick up a key, that means even more enemies have spawned. And in the darkness, it's pretty easy to get jumped. Now, this room that did give me some previous amount of pain and misery, a little bit easier to overcome from this angle. Means I can go get the spoils that I managed to overlook before. Not that I believe that we are terribly hurting in the way of ammunition, but still, every little bit helps. So in the previous library reserve, there wasn't too much going on. This one, though, has a little bit more in the way of useful items for us, including a nice little med kit, as well as one book that is particularly of interest to us. Yeah, that title is very familiar. So, Manifestations of Delusion. The book postulates the fact that some psychic phenomenon, or some supernatural phenomenon, such as poltergeist, are actually psychic in nature. That somebody's emotional state can manifest itself out, especially in the case of nightmares or negative emotions. Sometimes those can actually, change and shift the world around you, and in fact, it seems like that psychic phenomena is especially prevalent in adolescent girls. Kind of assume that might be what the title is referring to, that, what could be a sweet young little girl could have a monster unknowingly lurking in their subconscious. In addition to that, we do find another piece of reading material here. This one is, I guess a bit more fairy tale-esque. It tells the story of a hunter fighting a fearsome large reptile, and he manages to fell the foul beast by luring it into opening its large maw and firing into its soft inner bits to easily kill the beast. I suppose the moral of the story, and one that we've, I think, kind of run into a couple times in our combat, is, well, you shouldn't let your confidence and hubris get the better of you, because it can easily lead to your downfall. I think those are very good lessons to take away from that. The good news is that I think we have almost covered the entire second floor, just this final hallway here. Though it does seem like we've reached something of a dead end. That is, if we hadn't already managed to pick up that key. And while a part of me wants to just stand my ground and take out these gray children, it's not especially necessary at this point. It is sometimes helpful if you do have to backtrack through rooms to take out enemies that you might run into, but yeah, I don't really get the feeling like we're going to have to be revisiting these areas. Honestly, I think the only area that we really haven't visited at this point is all the way down in the basement. And there is a good reason for that. Yeah, there was this little gate here that would have blocked us previously. But now that we've made our way all the way through the rest of the school, we can now make our way down. And like before, there wasn't too much to the basement, though there is definitely some interesting items down here now, especially with the storage room open to us. Find some more cases of shotgun shells, as well as a second ampule. Overall, we are, I think, actually doing better on items than we did coming into this place. Even with all the damage and shooting we've been doing. Still, with all that out of the way, the only other place that Cheryl could be inside the school would be somewhere down here. Though we do have one final hurdle to get through to really start to explore the basement fully. And it involves these two valves here. Now, as we look at the valves, we'll see that we can turn them left or right. And by doing so, it in turn moves the bars that are blocking us, but in a very particular way. The good news for us, though, is the solution to this is fairly simple as long as you do it a very specific way. And now we should be freely open to explore the small amount of the basement left, I guess. Say hello to the first boss of the game. This lumbering mass of flesh with its very protruding face, while initially giving the appearance of being fairly slow, makes up for that by being just massive and taking up quite a bit of the arena. The good news is, with that shotgun that we picked up, we should be able to make quick work of it. It does have a second phase, and it's in this phase that we learn why it's named the way it is. Split head. Believe it or not, if you do get caught in that attack, you will die, but taking in that fairy tale, you know the perfect way to kill the beast.
Huh? What was that? Who in the hell was that?
So not a terribly difficult first boss fight, as long as you take advantage of Harry's speed and don't just try to brute force your way and fight that thing head on. Also, the call it made, the scream, the roar it made, it really reminded me to some degree of the boiler. Like when we turned it on, you could really hear that. But that mysterious person managed to leave behind a key for us. And just like that, we've managed to leave that nightmare and end up back in what seems to be the, I guess, normal version of the school. And while we didn't really have any luck finding Cheryl, the tolling of the bells at least directs us to a new location we can head towards. And in fact, I kind of remember at the start of the school, at the reception area, there was a list of teachers, and one of them was, I think, a Gordon. It's with that list of teachers that we're able to note down the possible location where we can use that key on our map. But I think after all that toil and strife we had in that mysterious Otherworld school, and overcoming that boss, I think it's a good time to call it a video, so hopefully you will join me next time as we go and investigate the bells.